Hi everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you about the second half of May and the lunar eclipse that's coming up in Sagittarius on the 26th. I'm putting this out a few days early because this is such an important eclipse that we are already into eclipse energy, but this is very strong. And just to recap a little on what I was saying in the last video, Jupiter is moving into Pisces on the 13th of May. It will stay in Pisces until the 29th of July, so only about 11 weeks, but it will only move as far as 2 degrees of Pisces and then backtrack. And this will actually give us a taster of what Jupiter in Pisces is going to be about, because it will more fully move into Pisces on the 29th of December and stay there until the 10th of May next year. So this gives us an idea of what it's going to be about. Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces. It's extremely comfortable there. And just see where 2 degrees of Pisces falls in your chart, because this is an area which can enjoy some expansion. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can download a free birth chart from my website. You can go to this link above and get a 2-part video series from my stall that will explain how to find these points in your chart for any update I ever do and what it means for you. So yes, on the one hand, Jupiter in Pisces may bring about more confusion or feelings of emotional overwhelm, even more flooding, actually, because Pisces is mutable water, unlimited water. But at a higher level, this is potentially very mystical. It can help all of us to feel more intuitive, more psychic, more tuned in, if you like. So really use that well, and particularly if you have your sun, your moon, or your ascendant in those first couple of degrees of Pisces, you'll be likely to feel that. There could be a sense of more recognition for you, some reward coming in, some personal growth opportunities, that kind of thing. All of those are associated with Jupiter. Then on the 23rd of the month, we have Saturn, which is at 13 degrees of Aquarius for the entire month of May. On the 23rd, it's moving stationary retrograde. So whenever a planet becomes stationary, its symbolism is magnified. So what is Saturn about? Well, it's about rules, regulations, control, top-down authority, that kind of thing. So we may see more of that emerging in the world. I'm already hearing that some countries are thinking of going into yet another lockdown. So just be aware that that could be one of the manifestations, and see where 13 degrees of Aquarius is falling in your chart, because this may bring up some, Saturn wants us to learn patience. So often we can go through kind of delays or blockages or obstacles, or our bosses are being difficult, or we have a lot of paperwork, a lot of bureaucracy, that kind of thing to sort of slow us up, so that we go back over things with patience. And it's going to be interesting because we have a Saturn-Uranus square all year. I've talked about that. It's only 1.5 degrees from exactitude at this time. This square is going to become exact again because Saturn is retrograding from this point, from the 23rd. It's going to become exact for the second time on the 14th of June and again on the 24th of December. So, and the themes I've covered in detail in another video. I think I called that Themes About 2021. I'll put the link below so I don't have to repeat all of those for you. But in short, it's about the old versus the new, and it's about control versus freedom. So if we're being asked to be more patient, but Uranus is square to Saturn, Uranus doesn't do patience. Doesn't do patience at all. It's a maverick. It doesn't obey the rules, doesn't want to obey the rules, wants to break systems down to bring in something new. So we will see how this manifests, and as I say, that will become stronger as we move into mid-June. But one of the ways that I think this retrograde Saturn in Aquarius will work is for us to go back over how well these rules, regulations, and controls in society have worked for societies. Have they been for the greater good of humanity? And I think that's going to be one of the important themes as Saturn backtracks through Aquarius. because Saturn is all of those things I've just talked about, and Aquarius very much represents freedom. Then we have our lunar eclipse, and that is happening on the 26th of May. It's happening at 4:13 a.m. Pacific, and it's happening at 12:13 p.m. UK time that same day, and it is at 5 degrees and 25 minutes of Sagittarius. Now, lunar eclipses are like big full moons, and let's think of what Sagittarius is associated with, what the themes are. Well, it's very much linked to freedom, travel, the truth, the law, natural law, and belief systems. And I think the big four there are freedom, truth, the law, and belief systems. So when we have full moons and lunar eclipses, they are the peak of the moon cycle, and it's the perfect time to release what no longer serves us, to let it go. At this lunar eclipse, which is so powerful, we are definitely going to be seeing big things fall away, because this isn't just a lunar eclipse, it isn't just a full moon, it isn't just a lunar eclipse, it's a total lunar eclipse. Those are pretty rare. And it is also a supermoon, because the moon is very close to the Earth in its orbit, and that can always increase the potential for seismic activity, because the moon has a stronger gravitational pull on the tectonic plates of the Earth. So things are coming to a culmination of some kind, and any eclipse is a kind of reboot almost. It's when the light is interrupted. It's like shutting down your computer to defrag it, and then, we kick it off again, we reboot it, and the light comes back. And we are always jumped forwards with eclipses. We're jumped forwards in our destiny. The more we can leave behind us, the more we are jumped forwards individually. So see where 5 degrees of Sagittarius falls in your chart, what that house area is for you, and what that's likely to mean for you, what you're going to be shedding. And I think what is going to be very important here is the truth coming to light, the light shining very brightly indeed at this total lunar eclipse supermoon into corners that we have not seen clearly before. A lot of legal cases are happening across the world right now that may be coming to some fruition round about this time. Remember, it's a culmination. And I think for many people, their belief systems may be shattered. Really big time. In fact, if you've had a perception of reality that you may have had for your entire life, but suddenly you can see things, the same facts as it were, but from a different point of view, there's a feeling of epiphany almost, a feeling of, wow, I just didn't see it that way. So if that is the case, many more people will be awakening, and that can only be a good thing. And remember, every update I do at the moment is within this bigger context of Pluto grinding its way through Capricorn. It doesn't start to leave Capricorn until 2023, fully in 2024. And that's the deconstruction of the old order. So everything's within that kind of backdrop that's happening. What we also have at this lunar eclipse, total supermoon lunar eclipse, is a lot of mutability. We have 6 planets in mutable signs. We have the moon in Sagittarius, Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, and the Sun, Mercury and Venus in Gemini, all mutable signs. And what mutable really means is that they're kind of chameleon-like, they're shape-shifting. So they're very creative, they're adaptable, but they are less fixed. There's less kind of stability, if you like, that you would have with a fixed sign. So there's a feeling of malleability. And this really adds to this whole sensation of going into the dark with this total supermoon lunar eclipse, and everything being now up for grabs, as it were, much less stable in how we see our reality, our belief systems, etc. So there's a feeling of us being able, in our creator's cave, if you like, to have greater power in our manifestation for what we want in the future. Because we're going to have a kind of interregnum phase between this lunar eclipse on the 26th of May until we get to this big new beginning solar eclipse in Gemini on the 10th of June. So use this well, because this kind of mutability, malleability that's happening right now, there's a feeling of epiphany here, epiphany of breakthrough in our perception. And this is really how the quantum model of reality works, that everything is just fluid, it's just quantum soup, it's just energy, until we start to apply our human observation, intention, feelings, emotions, thoughts, etc. And then it moves from wave into particle. So that's what's really happening here, but all the more so because eclipses are such intense, fast moving periods of change, and we've got so much mutability here. So if you look at the great leaders of our time, they always lived in a vision which was greater than their 3D reality. They wouldn't accept that 3D reality was ever enough. They created a vision and they stepped into it and lived it in that energy. So if your vision of reality and possibility is defined by the nightly news, that may be quite contracted. You may not see many possibilities there, but there are infinite possibilities because we are magnificent creators. So if you can start to create a vision of something greater than current events on Earth that you see happening all around you, that you're not going to be defined by those, you're going to step out and kind of create a new hologram, if you like. And that becomes very exciting indeed, that we're stepping into something much greater. So think of these eclipses as pivot points, because they are like Uranus transits. They can kind of jump us forwards in our individual and our collective destiny to get us further up the beach, if you like, than we've ever been. Another beautiful thing here is that Salacia in myth was the wife of Neptune. I've talked about her before. She's mermaid energy, shape-shifting energy. She is at 4 degrees of Aries in a tight trine to this total supermoon lunar eclipse. So for me, she's very linked to this very, very high frequency crystalline photonic light, which is pouring onto the Earth. She's linked to the kind of iridescent shimmering of moonlight and sunlight on the water. Really beautiful. So think of creating with light. That's what we do anyway, actually. We're just not very aware of it, but we can start to become more aware of it. Now, another reason I think this lunar eclipse is so big is that Jupiter, at 1 degree of Pisces, is squaring both the sun and the moon here. So whatever is going to manifest at this lunar eclipse is going to be even bigger. Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. So all those themes I've talked about, freedom, truth, the law, belief systems, it's going to be even bigger in its manifestation. Also, it brings in this quality of the mystical. If we look at the other important aspects at this lunar eclipse, we have Mercury in its own sign at 24 of Gemini, and also it is conjunct Venus at 21 of Gemini. And they are squared by Neptune in Pisces. Now, Gemini energy, Mercury energy is very busy. The mind wants to be stimulated. The mind wants to be activated. So it's mind energy. However, the square from Neptune says, no, get out of your head, get out of your mind, come to something higher. Neptune in Pisces is altered states. It's connected to source. It's connected to this sense of unconditional love, to oneness. It's really beautiful. So get out of your head into something more mystical, more connected to your higher self, if you like. And because Jupiter at 1 degree of Pisces is also conjunct one of the royal fixed stars of Persia called Fomalhaut. Fomalhaut is, in symbolism, is about the spiritual teacher. We have something very, very, not only imaginative, but very mystical here. Become more aware of your dreams, your daydreams, your nightly dreams, and do use this time to get into those altered states. To meditate more, to sit in nature, to listen to sacred music, to paint, to write poetry, creative writing, to candle gaze, to do breath work, any of those things. Get out of the head of your day-to-day to-do list, shopping list, that kind of thing. Just shift above that, because then you will be creating from a higher state of being. So this is very beautiful. Neptune has now moved on to 23 of Pisces. At this lunar eclipse, it hasn't been at 23 of Pisces for about 168 years, because that's the length of its orbit, roughly. So certainly within our lifetime. So if you have any planets, particularly the sun, the moon, or your ascendant at 23 of Pisces, and this aspect is going to last about another 2 years, you'll feel that. You'll very much feel that as a dissolution of density, a dissolution of attachment, perhaps, a dissolution of contraction. And at times you may feel a little kind of confused or in a fog, but if you can use it spiritually or creatively, this can be exquisite, can really shift you over these 2 years to something much more mystical. It's potentially very exciting. Equally, as I say, if you have your sun, moon, or ascendant in the first couple of degrees of Pisces, Jupiter is going to be hitting that and bringing in some kind of recognition, reward, personal growth as well. So these are beautiful aspects in Pisces. Neptune, the modern ruler, Jupiter, the ancient ruler of Pisces. So really use this beautifully. Eclipse energy is so intense, it's so fast moving, but it also gives us the opportunity to move forwards rapidly, particularly if we can use our intention well, if we can be masters of what we're creating. And if you're listening to this, you really are a new earth builder. Because as we move through this year, and particularly into next year, we are going to get more and more signs, manifestations, signatures of new earth. And remember, new earth isn't a place, it's a frequency. You can move to that in a second. Right now, you can move to that. Because with every thought and word and energy we emit, we are creating that. There's an important eclipse in Taurus in November, and then the North Node moves into Taurus for 18 months after that in January 2022. Taurus is the Earth. So although we are moving, particularly around this lunar eclipse, into a period of what feels potentially very unstable, with all this mutable energy, with the shedding of the old, with the cracking and shattering of belief systems, with Uranus in Taurus long-term till 2026, destabilizing foundations of what we've known. Yes, it can feel, wow, we are really whitewater rafting through this period, but don't just be carried along by that. Say, okay, things are changing. This is my opportunity to create something much more beautiful. So very simply, because none of us can imagine the detail of New Earth. We've never experienced it in our lifetimes. It's way beyond what we can imagine. But if you simply say to yourself, can I live in the feelings of joy, peace, compassion, love, gratitude, and appreciation for as long as I can through every single day? Keep checking in with yourself. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? If you can live in any of those feelings for most of the time, you are creating New Earth. You are pulling it towards you. You are magnetizing that future experience. And don't energize what's collapsing. Don't energize what's collapsing. Put your energy into something way more beautiful. So it's going to be a really amazing time, I think. I think it's going to really change a lot in the next 2-3 months. The chart of the US is highly activated over the next 2 or 3 months, but it isn't just the US. We are going to go through an intense period of global change through these next 2 to 3 months particularly. So I hope that's been helpful for you. If you'd like more information about my books, my teaching videos, my very long monthly newsletter, or the 2-part video series that will help you understand where these points are in your chart for any update I do, just check out my website, pamgregory.com, and God bless. Have a wonderful, powerful, total supermoon lunar eclipse on the 26th of May. Bye for now.